started. So kind of let me introduce what I'm doing. So we're going to be showing you how to crop out designs that might be in your edge to edge that are bigger than the actual throat space that you have. And there are some pointers that I want to give you. When you are going to, hey Coco, be quiet. I'm home alone today, and if I lock my dog in a room, you're still going to hear it. And she barks at everything that walks by the window, and she won't leave my side. So bear with me today. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me give you some pointers for when you're going to do a quilt that has appliques throughout it, and you're going to do an edge to edge, and you're going to crop. Number one, think about that edge to edge design that you're going to do. Don't do one that's too dense. If you do one that's too dense and you have multiple things in one quilt area that you've got to crop out, the density of that edge to edge is going to make things shrink up. And then by the time it gets to maybe the second or third thing that you cropped out on that row, it's not accurate anymore because the fabric has shrunk up or crunch. I don't know the good word to use it, but it shifted your fabric, okay? So be very thoughtful of the design that you pick out for its density. Now, another thing to be thoughtful of on that design is also think about one that before you're making repeats of it looks like a square or a rectangle. It's not one of those that has rough edges or uneven edges or looks like, you know, a wave, okay? We don't want to pick any of those kind of designs because sometimes if we have those kind of designs, rows will intertwine with each other, and then when we have to crop out, because we can't do edges when we're doing this, when we crop out this kind of stuff, it gets screwy with how it wants to go from one point to the other, okay? So we need to be just very thoughtful of that. Another thing to be thoughtful of, if you really want to give yourself less headache doing this, make sure that each row of your actual design that you're picking out, you've maxed out your throat space. So if you have a Quilt Maker Pro 18, make that design before you make repeats of it be 12 inches tall. So that hopefully as you are cropping out for your throat space area, that it's not accidentally going into the one below it, okay? I hope I'm making sense. And I know that eventually it is going to go below it, but we don't want it to try to quilt some of this row and that row at the same time. And that may not happen, but there's just squirrely things that happen when we try to crop. I'm sure you've all experienced it, to where sometimes when you crop, it doesn't crop everything that you said it for it to crop, or it crops it and puts it somewhere else on the screen, and all kinds of weird things happen. And that could happen today because who knows, okay? Now I am going to be doing this on my Quilt Maker Pro 20 because I'm going to be using my handlebar button because it's just so much easier. I'm sorry for those of you who have an 18. I am going to make you wish you had a 20 today, and I apologize, except I really am not apologizing because I want you to upgrade eventually and let somebody else buy your machine, you know, because we need to have, you know, more Quilt Maker Pro 20s out there for all of you, right? Okay, so anyway, I'm going to flip my camera around so that you can see what I'm doing on my screen, okay? So give me just a second here. I know it's black right now. I'm going to fix this, y'all. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I think I might be getting a little bit better at using this. Now, I know it's not super close to the screen, but it's not letting me zoom in, okay? So if this isn't doing us beneficial, then I will take it off and hold it and try to be still, but I just don't want to make you get car sick, okay? Okay, so let me tell you what I've done so far. So far, I have just set up a normal edge-to-edge quilt, okay? And I did something that was a square before I made any repeats of it, and I made this pattern 12 inches tall, assuming that I was doing it on a Quilt Maker Pro 18. So technically, I probably should have done this at 14 because I am doing it on a 20, okay? Kathy Warner, so need help. Well, let's talk after my live, lady. You've got my number. Okay, so I've set up a normal edge to edge, and right now there's still an area set. Now, at this point, just for my benefit, I went and saved this, even though I'm going to make some changes to it, okay? I just saved it for right now, okay? And I'm going to make sure that it's baselined, even though I've baselined it before. I've been playing with this and then undoing stuff while I've been preparing to do this with y'all. So make sure it's baselined, okay? And once you've done that, here's the first step that you have to do to start cropping out appliques in a quilt that has an edge-to-edge design. You have to go to your area tab and you have to clear that area, okay? Do not freak out. If you baselined before you cleared that area, everything is going to be okay. If you did not, it might not be okay. So make sure you baselined before you clear your area. The reason why I have to clear my area is because when we are cropping, we can only set one area at a time to crop things out, okay? That is very important to understand. So if we're having to crop out multiple things in one row, I've got to set one up, crop it out, baseline it, clear my area, go to the next one and set a new area. And do that multiple times until I have everything in that row cropped out, okay? So I am going to take my phone off of the stand for just a second, okay? And I'm going to show you what the quilt looks like that I'm going to do the cropping on. So it has some reindeers, okay, on here, and they're odd shaped, okay? It's got some snowflakes, but I'm actually not going to worry about cropping those out for the demo purposes today. And then if you come over here, I've got a partial present. I won't be able to crop all of it out because it's bigger than my third space area. It won't be able to go as far down. But I will be able to get all of these reindeers cropped out, okay? So I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to be able to see on my screen, and I know that you got the black showing, but I'm gonna move it. I want you to be able to see what my screen will look like after I've cropped out on one row a whole applique that can be completed and one that can only be partially completed because it's bigger than my third space area, okay? So the first thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna kind of move my machine to the area of where I'm gonna be cropping, and then I'll move my camera. Try not to make you get car sick. There we go, okay? And I'm gonna quickly set an area. Now, when you're setting an area, how close do you get to your applique? That's a hard question to answer. I've not perfected this. So I would say give yourself a little bit of wiggle room and go a little bit to the outside edge of your applique, okay? Now, the more time you take doing this, the better this is going to turn out for you. I'm gonna speed do this because of time purposes. I don't want you to sit here and watch me push a button 100 times and take 15 minutes, okay? So how fast I'm about to do this is not necessarily how fast you should do it, okay? So I'm in area. I don't have to hit, as long as my area tab is green on my screen, I don't have to select anything else. I'm in the right tab to start using my handlebar buttons. So here I go. Okay, so let me get you closer to my screen now. So there's that area that I just did, and it completely covered, I completely got all of my reindeer in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to crop those stitches inside that area out. So to do that, I have to go to a new tab. So I'm gonna go to the Modify tab, and I'm gonna make sure that Crop is highlighted underneath Modify, okay? And then I'm gonna go over here to the side of the sidebar over here, and I'm going to tell it to crop the inside stitches, okay? Now, that's what my screen looks like. I am not going to tell it to do the edges, and here is why. I don't want it to sew back and forth in one spot on the edges 20 times, and it is inevitable that it's going to do that, because when we crop stitches out of a design, it's not redigitizing that design for us. It is just simply taking those stitches out. So when it gets a part of that design that's cropped out, it's gonna say, oh, I can't sew here, so I can't sew past here. Where's the next closest stitch in the pattern, in the path that I've been told to go in at? And I'm just gonna go the most direct path to it that I can. So it's gonna sew a straight line around the edges to get to that next line, okay? So it could sew in one pathway 20 million times, not 20 million times, but you get my drift. And you don't want a thick line of stitching in one section. So do not do your edges. Now, what you could do, and you would have to do it right now before you did anything else, is you could go to Pro Stitcher and you could come over here and make sure, of course, that stitch and start and end are both highlighted. And you could tell it, and pull up on and pull up auto, I always have those highlighted. You could tell it to trace the area, and then you could go and select the run button, and it would do one single stitch where your pink area line is for you, okay? And that gives it a nice, clean, closed off area, and then you would be done for right now, okay? And that is just so you would have a crisp closing of that area, okay? Now, you don't have to do that. You could just crop this area, not do the edges, continue on cropping all the rest of your areas with the same format, and then once you've quilted that whole row with your edge to edge, go back and do a nice little line around your applique, which for some things, that's the only option you're going to do, because the further you get down on that row of that quilt, cropping out all these stitches, the possibility of less accuracy there's going to be with shifting of your fabric. You've got to be aware of that. Remember, this is just a machine. We are just humans, and we are going to have flaws. There are things that we are not going to think about that are going to happen that are just inevitable, okay? So don't beat yourself up when you got a stitch inside your applique just a little bit. Just get over it, okay? Just get over it. We all do it. Okay, so from this point, I'm not gonna do the trace thing, because of course I don't really actually want to stitch. But from this point, what I would do is then go back to my area tab, okay? And right now, before I do anything else, I'm gonna baseline, okay? I have to baseline right now. If I don't, weird things will happen at this very point when I hit another button. So now I'm going to clear that area out, okay? And that's actually what it's gonna look like when it stitches out, okay? Now I need to come and take care of part of that design on my... Y'all, I accidentally hit a button that ended the live. I hope I didn't end it. I told it to cancel. This is just a day. Welcome to the Kelley Show, where all kinds of things happen. Okay, so I'm going to crop out part of this present that's on here, because I can't get it all in my throat area. Now, again, I don't mean to repeat myself so much. I'm going to do this super fast so that you don't have to sit here and watch me push a button, okay? Don't do it as fast as me. Okay, that's as far as I can go. I don't know how much of that you can see. Okay, so, oh, you can see a pretty good bit of it. So as far as I can go in my third space, okay? So let's look at what my screen looks like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go crop those stitches out. So I'm going to go to modify, crop, inside. Oops, I didn't mean to hit edges. I meant to hit inside. Okay, there we go. Do not hit edges. Edges would be a disaster, okay? Now, we cannot go and do that pretty trace option on this because this is a partial design, and if we were, it would sew a straight line right through the middle of this present, okay? So you cannot do the trace option on this one. It's just not an option for you to do, okay? So now that we've done that, I need to, before I do anything else, I need to baseline this, okay? It didn't take my baseline. There we go. Now it's baselined. And now I can clear my area, okay? And there. Now I could go to Pro Stitcher and I could quilt that whole row, okay? Now here's what we're gonna do. Somebody needing my help calling me. Okay, this is great. Everything's interrupting us today. So let's pretend like we just quilted that whole row and everything went smooth and it's time for me to advance my quilt, okay? If you are struggling with advancing your quilt, please go back and watch one of our lives. I think it was one of the first ones that I did, and I show you how to do drag and drop. I think the name of it is even drag and drop, and you can learn how to advance your quilt. Okay, I'm going to advance this quilt right now real quickly. I'm almost done, y'all. In real life, I would sew down the edges before I did anything else, which I really will do when I get done with this live and I continue quilting this today. Okay, so I have physically advanced my quilt, but of course my screen does not know that, so I am now going to go pick a spot. And again, I'm not teaching drag and drop today, but I'm just trying to help you learn how to do this cropping thing. So I'm going to pick a random spot. So this is not part of the lesson. I'm just doing this for your benefit of learning how to crop. So let me just go here. And it's actually like right in here and drop. Okay. So I've dragged and dropped and my quilt is ready to quilt the next row. Hold on, I'm gonna get my start point in the right spot. I accidentally hit some wrong buttons, so y'all give me just a second. I get it where it needs to be. Okay. Okay, people. So here's what we would do now. Now what we would do is we would go and finish cropping out this present over here on this second row, okay? So I'm going to get to where I need to be on, let me see what my screen looks like for y'all. Oh, y'all aren't seeing anything. So I've dragged and dropped, I've advanced my quilt, and now I need to finish cropping out the rest of this present. So I'm where I want to start cropping out, so I'm going to go to the area tab, okay? And just because my baseline is not grayed out, I'm going to baseline this, okay? Because it just scares me. Now, because I baselined this, my start point went back to the first row, so I will have to physically move my start point when I get ready to quilt this next row, okay, y'all? Which normally we don't have to do because if we advanced correctly, it knows to go to the next row. Okay, so I'm going to quickly do another multi-point area. And I'm just going to go all the way over here. And this isn't completely accurate because we are pretending, but it's accurate enough for me to show you how to do this and you grasp a concept. Okay, so that will be the rest of the present being able to be cropped out. Let me get my machine closer for y'all. Okay, so that's the rest of that little present. So what I would do now is go to the Modify tab and crop and tell it to crop the inside again, okay? Then I would baseline. So I baseline my design. Baseline is grayed out. And then I would go to area and clear my area. And now all of my present is completely cropped out. Actually, there's an itty bitty stitch right here and right here that didn't. So I don't know why it didn't. It could have been my inaccuracy of setting my multi-point. If something weird like that were to happen, all you would do is go and set an area again right where the stitches are at. And I'm gonna do that. Let me see if you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna go set another area real quick. And I'm just looking at my screen to do this. And then I would crop that out. Okay, now there's no more weird stitches in there. Oh, I gotta put my machine closer to you. And then I would simply move my start point to the second row, which is gonna, I'm gonna see if I can do it a different, no, it's gonna sit here and make me go through all those little starts that are in all the edges of these designs. So it's a little time consuming, but I'm doing as fast as I can. So I'd have to get that start point to the second row. I think I missed the second row. Oh my goodness, y'all. Okay, you would move your start point to the second row, and then you would go to Pro Stitcher and quilt and run and quilt your second row, okay? And this is how you would continue on the entire quilt, okay? Now, I feel like I have forgotten to tell y'all something on this. Are there right now any questions about cropping designs out? I'm looking to see if there's questions. I don't see any. Have I confused anybody? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Nobody's talking. I hope I'm still alive. So again, tips. Try to max out your throat space when you are setting the height of the design for your edge to edge so that you don't bleed into another row while you're trying to crop out just that part of the design, okay? So don't do rows that are like 6 inches. Then you're gonna get some headaches of your design wanting to jump start points, okay? When you do these edges, I'm sorry, my tongue's getting twisted. When you do set areas for these, one of the big things, and I tell you this with other things that we do, is make sure you're not leaning on the bars of your frame. If you're leaning on the bars of your frame, all your areas are inaccurate and you're going to be mad because it's going to get to that applique and it's going to sew on it, or it's going to sew a 1/4 inch away from it. And you're like, that is not where I told you to sew. And I know I picked a design that wasn't very dense. So why did you do that? So again, I mean, I have to suck in because I call it a cheese belly because I love cheese. I have to suck in when I'm doing stuff like this because I hit the bar constantly setting an area. So just think about that. Okay, so let me get my notes real quick. Okay, so I've been quilting today a little bit, as you can see, and I've ran into a few things today that I was like, ooh, this would be a good live. So I've got some ideas set up for the next couple of lives, and I just wanted to give you a preview. So I think I'm gonna do a segment on how to keep your machine from going to the doctor. How about that? Or your dealer. I like to call them the doctor. So like things to prevent from having to take it to the dealer, like why am I getting skipped stitches? I'm going to try to go over some of those troubleshooting things like that. Not a ton, I'm going to narrow it down and like concentrate just on a few, okay? And try to help you help yourself so that you don't get frustrated and we don't have as many of those posts of why am I getting skipped stitches, okay? We're going to talk about it, I'm going to show you some things, and hopefully that'll help. Another thing is, there are a lot of times that I look at buttons on this tablet and I'm like, why do they have that button and what am I supposed to use it for? I never use it. Well, today I used the follow button a lot and I used the measuring button a lot. So I want to do a live just showing you how useful those two buttons can be. So that's another, I don't know how I'm going to name that, but that's another live that I want to do. And I know that Jeannie is working on a live that is going to be multiple parts, how to do borders and corners. But I do have bad news. Next week there won't be a live. Jeannie's going to be on vacation, and I'm having a minor surgery on my foot. No big deal. But I don't think I'm going to feel good enough to do a live next week. But I will still be working. I'm only taking off the one day of surgery. That's it. I probably shouldn't even have to take off a whole day there, but they're putting me to sleep, so I'm just going to make sure I don't, I'm just taking the whole day off. Okay. So, we're going to skip next week, but then we will pick right back up the following week and we'll announce which live we're going to do after that. Okay? So, if there aren't any questions, then I'm going to look and make sure there's no questions. Besides, Kathy, you need to call me about your nest eggs on the bottom. Nesting on the bottom, nest eggs. Why did I say that? Okay. So, thank y'all so much for watching today. I can't wait to do another live with y'all. I am a little sad that I'm not doing it next week. I actually sat there and go, can I do one next week? I can squeeze it in, can't I? But I want to do my best for y'all, so I'm just going to skip next week. Again, I hope today helped you. If I learn more about this, or if you run into trouble doing this, please email me, kmckenzie@janome-america.com. Because this is not something that I do every day, so y'all might run into things that I have not spoke about. Let me know. We'll figure it out. I'll do another live, okay? So thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all week after next, okay? Thanks.